Recorded. Anyone?
I can kick us off. My name is Alicia. I am from New York, and I chose to be a part of this workshop because the lowering the voting age bill, along with civic education, like I learned so much from the Ignite the Capital that I wanted to like participate since we were continuing on this work. And one of my highlights so far was the investing, like learning how to invest and like just managing your finances. That was earlier today. So that was definitely one highlight that I'm going to take away. And I will popcorn it to Tulia.
Hi, my name is Tulia Candido. I'm from LA and I chose to attend this workshop because I'm super passionate about legislative advocacy and I love Jocelyn. And one thing I hope to learn from today's workshop, I don't know, just I'm here to learn everything. And then one thing I really liked from this event so far was the female speaker we had at the event before this one.
Do you want to pop it off to someone else?
Yeah, I can't see the names,
Oh,
like,
gotcha.
because I'm
No
sharing.
worries.
Could you pass it
Ryan,
off
do you want to share? I know you by now.
Okay, so is it all right if I go next?
Yes.
Okay, so hi everyone, I'm Raya. I am in Los Angeles. I currently reside in Los Angeles, and I chose to attend this workshop because I feel as if it's so important for younger audiences to be able to amplify their voices. I definitely think that this is such an important topic because, I often see that, people are told off that are trying to become future leaders. Oh, you're too young, you're inexperienced, but no, we uphold our own power, and we're doing just as much as the generations that have come before us at just at an earlier age. So I definitely think that it's so important for us to stand up, speak up, because we are the next generation and we're doing so many great things.
Thank you. And I cannot agree more. And I truly think that we're seeing like Gen Z starting at a much younger age. And y'all have like we've been doing such amazing work across the nation, and especially with technology and social media, how we're able to use all of that to move mountains, to make movements. That's so empowering. So yes, cannot agree more. Lauren, do you want to introduce yourself, or we do have a slide for you too?
Hi, everyone. I'm Lauren. I'm the Atlanta Fellow. And Raya, you have so much power in your voice. And I think that's why it's just so important that we get younger people the right to vote, 17-year-olds the right to vote. And a reason why I decided to attend this workshop and help facilitate it is because a few weeks ago, I hosted my own legislative advocacy session with a Georgia representative that I work for, Representative Lewis Ward, where we were advocating for a bill in Georgia that aims to lower the voting age to 17. And it was really impactful to hear from other young people the reasons why they believe we should, include 17-year-olds in the conversation. And I think it's really important that we hear from more young people and amplify their voices. So I'm excited to hear from you guys today.
Yes. I love it. Love it. We definitely need to amplify our youthful voices. So I will do a quick introduction of myself. My name is Jocelyn Yao. For those, I think everyone here knows me by now. I am the policy manager for Ignite National, and I started joining Ignite. Tulia, if you go to the next slide. I started joining Ignite when I was still a student at UC Berkeley, and I wanted to run for office, but nobody took me seriously except for Sarah, who is the executive director for Ignite. And so thanks to her, I was able to run for office, and I also serve as the mayor of my city, but Ignite is the one paying my bills. And plus I love legislative advocacy work. So here I am, and you can reach me on social media or my email. And I know next slide, it's supposed to be for, I think, Alicia, but she just introduced herself. Alicia, you just did. If there's anything you want to add, or Lauren, if there's anything you want to add, feel free to do so right now. You can do that as well. No, we're good.
Follow us, yes.
Yes, I love
Yeah.
I love it. Well, with that, we'll take down the slide and we'll have Lauren and Alicia talk about the importance of youth voice and why is it that we are trying to lower the voting age across different states, different parts of the country, and why is it so important that we have our youth make sure that they actually their voices are amplified. And I'll let Lauren and Alicia take over from here.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. So we really saw young people, specifically young women, show out this past election. And I have a few statistics from Ignite showing the power that Ignite young women showed when they voted and engaged in this past election. So 98% of our young women voted, which is amazing. And a third of those young women were first-time voters. So we're talking about 18-year-olds. We're talking about that young population. And almost 60% of those Ignite women volunteered an average of 40 hours this election season. So not only do we see young people voting, but we see young people participating in getting other people to vote, which is really incredible. And other than that, we saw that young people voted at rates that they've never voted at before, and they made a 21% of the electorate in Georgia, which is really incredible. And they were able to really make an impact on that election in Georgia. And also a lot of data shows that the earlier we engage our youth in the civic process, the more likely they're more likely to become lifetime voters. So imagine if 17-year-olds can vote, our impact as young people would be even greater. And we know that voting is one of the powerful ways that youth can make up their voices heard, and they can make an impact on the issues that we most care about in our communities. And we've seen that those issues, we experience them as young people. 17-year-olds definitely experience them. We've seen high school students really stand up via social media and really use their voices, even because they didn't have that opportunity to vote, they still showed up in different ways. And I think that just makes it more of a reason why we should have 17-year-olds voting. So I'll pass it over to Alicia.
Yes, thank you, Lauren. And, the more young people get involved, the more change we can make. So we would love to just know and just kick it off with, how have young people been getting involved in your respective states? What way have you seen young people amplify their voices? And because we're a small group, feel free to put your answers in the chat box. But, me and Lauren will share a little bit about what we have seen. And, I'll kick it off by saying that a lot of the young women in New York, they organize their own marches, their own rallies. They make use of their social media to really get people involved, and spreading awareness of the issues that are most important to them. And I feel like that is a strength that a lot of young people have, and organizing and getting people together as a group. I also feel like a lot of the college chapters do their part in making young voices heard by hosting those voter registration drives, or maybe meet the candidates, just by hosting those different forums where you can meet elected officials or different professionals, and really voice your opinion is one way a lot of the women in New York make their voices heard. And, I'd love to hear what other ways and how other people are organizing in your respective states too.
I usually organize through social media. During the Black Lives Matter protests, my friends and I were able to get together and do something on Zoom. And that was super fun. We were able to we did this thing where we made posters and everything. We were able to get a few other people that followed us on social media to come on, and that was really fun. And then sometimes I do always love to post through social media. I feel like it's best to get your voice out there by just, I don't know, I feel like if you have a following, even if it's a little bit, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? You could have 5 followers, but those 5 followers could still be watching your videos and they learn something new. So I always think that it's so good to use social media, not as a matter of, having a following, but as a matter of educating people. And that is one of the reasons why I use social media to my advantage, so I can educate people better and kind of give them a better understanding of what's going on and what we need to focus on for our democracy and nation.
Yes, definitely. Thank you for sharing. I'll pass it to you, Lauren.
Sure. I really liked what you said, Raya, about educating, because I think as young people, there's that, excuse me, misconception that we don't know what we're talking about, or we're not educated enough to make that vote or to participate in the process. So I think it's really cool that you really made the effort to educate your followers. One thing that I saw similar to that was there was a lot of TikToks that were made about information about absentee ballots and how to request them, because of the pandemic, a lot of us voted by mail, and there's a lot of different rules in each state. So in Georgia, I saw a lot of people making the effort to use their platforms on TikTok or on Instagram to share hey, when do you need to request this absentee ballot? When do you need to send it in? If it gets flagged, what do you do? What steps do you need to take in order to make sure that your ballot is counted? Because we do have those problems in Georgia and other states where you cast your ballot and sometimes it's not counted because it's not, your signature doesn't match your voter registration, or there's a bunch of different issues that might arise. So I think it's really cool that you, among other people, really made the effort to say, hey, these are the dates, here are the resources, let's share them with others. And I think another huge tool that was utilized even more this election season was relational organizing, and having those important conversations with your friends and family first. And we saw that it made a really big impact on this election, because hey, it's sometimes easier to convince a friend or family member to vote more than it is a stranger. So I got a lot of texts from peers and from people that I knew, but I knew that they were getting out the vote. But it was really cool that they were texting me in a more personable way, and really making the effort to say, hey, I'm here as a friend, as a resource, let me help you and let's make that plan. So yeah. I get really excited about this. So we have a second question for you guys, and I would love to hear your perspectives. There have been stereotypes on young voters and young people in general, and how can we combat those stereotypes? Have you heard any stereotypes of young voters, and how do you combat those?
I'd say that one that I've heard is that a lot of young people are lazy. Which is definitely not true. I feel like a lot of young people are working really hard and going after what they want, and they're not afraid of the attention. When I think of someone maybe Greta Thunberg or Malala, people who their age just doesn't matter. They know the issues that are important to them, and they're just working hard and advocating for them. So I think just putting in the work automatically refutes that stereotype. And I also feel I don't know, it may be cheesy, but everyone being here today kind of goes against that stereotype, because we're all young people trying to make a difference, or just trying to empower our own communities in our own ways. So I think that's one stereotype and one way to combat that.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. One stereotype that I've heard a lot is that young people are too impressionable or too easily influenced. And that's kind of silly to me, because as young people, we firsthand see the issues that are going on in our community. And we've seen the effort of young people to become educated and to be in the civic process. And I think it's just important that we continue that role, because at the end of the day, if we encourage young people to really be educated about who they vote for, or making sure that they know which elections are happening so that they can vote in each election, we won't have that problem of people that aren't educated enough to make that decision, because we've given them the resources to do so. So yeah, do you guys have any stereotypes that you hear? Yeah.
Yes, this one is very heard of a lot, that young people are not focused. I feel like we would not be here doing what we do if we were not focused, if we did not have a passion, if we were not driven. You know what I mean? Like we would not be taking time out of our day to advocate for something that we care about so much. So there's so many young people throughout every industry that are just going out and doing what they love, being passionate about whatever it is. So I just feel like hearing that we're not focused is kind of really stereotypical because we're focused. We're doing this for a reason. We're driven and we're not all the way there yet, but we're getting there.
Period. Yes, that was awesome.
And I see that, is it Miko or Michael? Miko?
It's Miko. Sorry.
Okay, Miko.
My daughter's like in the background. So
No worries.
I just had a quick question because like I've been not a youth for a while now. So I don't like to make assumptions or like, use my observations as like fact or whatever, because I'm in college. Like that doesn't really apply to me anymore. But like I run a nonprofit, and one of the things that I've seen like with younger people or like with youth, I'd say that like 18 and under kind of threshold, is that a lot of people are kind of quick to be with the action, like a lot of young people want to be radical. A lot of young people want to take up space and activate and be like kind of the builders and the, activation key to a lot of like the stuff that's been going down, has been what I've observed. So my thing is when it comes to stuff like political ed, when it comes to stuff like civics, how is it's not always like where the action's at, my work is focused on the healing and storytelling component. So we tend to have a lot of people at our events because it's fun, right? But sometimes it's not always fun. So I guess my question for you guys would kind of be, what is something that kind of draws young people in, or what is something that's needed at like a school level where it's like a club or a program or an after school thing where like y'all have access to like some of the not fun stuff, but the understanding of why it's necessary, and to kind of increase engagement in like the dirty work, not always the like fun social media stuff that you see, because on the back end there's a lot of stuff that goes into those big rallies, or there's a lot of stuff that goes into the education aspect. So what is something that y'all would like to see or feel is needed for that 18 and under group, because accessibility is a big key to that. It's easy to go on social media, it's easy to like have all this information flooding in, but it's hard to be engaged on like that deeper level. So what are like some suggestions or ideas that y'all would have? Like I kind of want to hear from the younger people. Like I'm not cool anymore, so I need to know like what's going on, so I appreciate that.
Okay, I'll share my perspective and then I'll open it up for everyone else. I am on the edge of Gen Z and millennial. I'm like literally right there. But I will say, going to the point of, beyond social media, I personally, this is my take, and I'm curious to hear from other people. I think we need to meet where they are. And it's not always textbooks, because I personally think that textbooks are pretty whitewashed sometimes. And I'll just use an example of like Asian American history, right? Like just reflecting upon everything that's happening, I didn't learn, and I'm an Asian American, I didn't even learn about my own history until my junior year of college. And that's only because I took an Asian American study class that specializes on that. But don't take me wrong, I have taken plenty of US history classes, but none of them taught about the history of Asian American studies. And so, just thinking about like our classrooms the best way to educate people, I don't know. Like I think, yes, in some ways maybe, but I think the great thing about social media is that we're also, and not just social media, but it's just the existence of Google, it's magical. I've been learning so much that I didn't even get to learn when I was in college. I just recently, I learned about this new legislation. Well, not new legislation. I learned about this legislation from the 1800s that I did not learn when I was in school. And so I truly think that with social media, we're making knowledge more accessible to everyone. The question here, however, I do think is that how do we make sure that the information are accurate and that it's not fake? Like there's a I've also seen a lot of misinformation being spreaded around social media. So that's for me, that's actually my bigger concern. And then to go to, and also beyond social media, I actually think that young people are putting in the work beyond social media. They are the ones organizing rallies. They are the ones out, out and about, being on the street. They're the ones knocking on doors come election season. I've seen, like, even Georgia, right? Like there were so many volunteers that were young people who were out knocking on doors last election cycle. And then just here where I'm at, like we recently had a rally, and it was organized solely by high school students, and it was phenomenal. You could not even tell that it was organized by whether high school students or someone who has done this for 10 years, 20 years. So I think it's a little bit of I think social media is great in a way that it meets people where they are. But for me, my biggest concern is actually the misinformation on social media. There's two sides of it. There's a lot of great information, but there's also the misinformation. So anyway, that's my take on it, and I'm curious to hear from other people.
That's so true. Like that is a really big problem on social media, is that misinformation aspect of it. And I think it's really important that we talk to young people like as early as we can about like what's a reliable source and what's an unreliable source. And that's something that they teach you like in college, but I think it should be taught like as early as like middle school, because I mean, it's a thing for everyone. And I think it's important that we continue like encouraging our young people to volunteer as early as they can on these campaigns. I met someone that I thought was in college, but they were like 16. I was like, whoa, you're doing so much. And it's really incredible to see. And I think there's still that misconception that young people aren't the ones that are making this impact in the volunteer or in the campaigning space, but that's false. And I think we need to like start paying our young people to do this work too, because it's hard work. So
Okay, well, I wanted to add on top of that, like, I definitely feel as if getting students engaged with that kind of work starts within school and the public school system. So I definitely think that if the public school system could get, kind of get kids to know their background and their history and just real American history in general, and how we need to continue to advocate, or, teaching them about volunteering or being an advocate. I definitely think that that's important, especially around schools, because everything that starts when you're a child. You know what I mean? Like, I definitely think that this stuff should be, like you were saying, Lauren, during youth. And I just love seeing, aside from social media, just kids going out there and really starting to like do the work, like start rallies, organizing rallies with friends, going through social media, promoting their rallies, promoting their cause. I definitely think that that's so important to start and enlist and at a young age. So I definitely agree with you all.
Yeah, I just want to add into it. I definitely agree with everything everyone said. I think we need to reach people when they're a lot younger and like just I don't know, because I also not only did I not know about a lot of different parts of history till I got to college, I also didn't know like being an elected official was a career path until I got to college. Like I don't know, like nobody was really talking about that. So it wasn't until I got to college it was like, oh, you can run for office. Like I don't know, you can hold an elected position. I can't remember what we were learning about, but it just wasn't that stuff. So yeah, I think I don't know, the civic education portion is really important, but making sure that we get our youth or our kids like the correct information is also important. So like we had another question. We would love to know, who are some of your favorite activists, a young person or not, whoever, like just who are some of your favorite activists or people that you look up to that get you motivated to make change in your community?
That is such a great question. It actually got me thinking. I'm like, Oh, well, Alicia, since you were the one who asked that question, would you mind sharing who's your, you know, who do you look up to?
So one of the activists that I like is Deja Fox, and I know she's like no stranger to Ignite, but just her being a student in New York as well as working as a campaign strategist and like being a part of Kamala Harris's campaign. Like I thought that was really cool how she in that role was able to merge like being an influencer and a social media strategist and like but also create such a big platform for a candidate and it just for like a presidential race too. Like I don't know, that was just really cool and inspiring to me, especially because she juggled that while going to school or like just being a young person in general. And a lot of times, I don't know, like we just have so much going on, but her just being so upfront and honest about her experiences too, I like the good and the bad. So I don't know, she's just someone that I thought of when we came up with that question as like an influencer and an activist that that I'm inspired by.
I love that. I love that. No, Deja is phenomenal. And who do you have, Lauren?
So I've always loved Heart Cannon, but she just amazes me even more now after everything that happened. But she's a Georgia representative and she's the youngest legislator in the House. And recently she got national attention because she was knocking on the door of our governor's door because he was signing a bill behind closed doors that encourages voter suppression. And she was knocking on the door and she got arrested. And yesterday at the Capitol, I saw like a huge like group of activists and Black women who were there to support her. And it moved me a lot because she's awesome and she's incredible. But the fact that she's really motivating others to also use their voices and stand up and be there is really, really incredible. And it just goes to show that her reach is like, it's massive. So I encourage y'all to check her out. She's really dope.
Miko put in the chat box that Margaret Okazawa is one of her current faves, and Maya Angelou is one of her all-time top 5.
I'm just gonna go ahead and say it, but I actually have about maybe 4 of my favorite activists so far that I've been following. One of those being, of course, Greta Thunberg, Marley Diaz, Malala Yousafzai. She's amazing. So those are my top 4 so far. Especially the woman of color. This is really just amazing to see. And I'll definitely be sure to check out some of your activists because I just need to see it all. And also Blair Imani. I love her as well. So yeah, that's about it.
So for mine, definitely Malala. And then the other person is Amanda Nguyen. I don't know how many of you actually know her, but she is just phenomenal, and she's a huge advocate for sexual assault, like well against sexual assault. But one of the things, and this actually goes back to the whole conversation of youth voice. And the reason why I admire her even more, and I've been following her a lot, it's because she actually grew up where I live right now. She grew up in this city, this town that I live. But I ask around, like, people who went to the same high school as her at the same time around, she went to the high school. Nobody know who she was. So what I'm trying to get to is that that was the whole reason why it made me realize, oh my goodness, we need to uplift our students, our high school students here in our local community. And so I've been very intentional about like getting our high school students involved, because the reality is this, and Amanda, if you don't know anything about her, she was named Forbes 30 under 30. And she was also given the Nobel Peace Prize. She was a Nobel Peace Prize nominee in 2019. That's how big of a deal she is. But nobody knew about her when she lived here, when she went to high school here. And that which inspired me, her whole story inspired me to be intentional, be more intentional when it comes to uplifting our high school students, because guess what? There's leaders among us. There's all the high school students here. There's so many leaders here in our local community, and we need to be more intentional about watering them, as in, like, I'm thinking about like a plant. Like we need to be more, sorry, I was like, that's a bad way to put it, but we need to be more intentional when it comes to nurturing them and uplifting them and making sure that we uplift their voice and their work. And so anyway, that's yeah, I admire her so much, and she's just phenomenal. But yeah, and Julia, I know you just joined us, but if you want to share any youth activists or any activists in general whom you admire, you could do so as well. Maybe not. Maybe Julia's. Oh, there we go.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. There's so many. I have to echo everything. Angela Davis, Kimberly Crenshaw, Park Cannon. I remember learning more about her through Lauren, actually, and then seeing her on the news and just taking such powerful stances, even when literally the governor closed the door on any activism surrounding voting rights. I think is just amazing. And then I mentioned Tarana Burke, just because she founded the Me Too movement, and I actually got to see her speak in Asheville, and she was so amazing, so inspiring, and she just really founded a movement where everyone joins. Those are my favorite kind of movements, when people are not only leaders in themselves, but they're encouraging others to lead as well, and inviting other women and people along the way with them. And that's exactly what Tarana Burke does. So super grateful for her as well, and love following her.
Awesome. Thank you all for sharing. And I'm definitely going to check out all these activists. I feel free to drop it in the chat box. I know we mentioned a few of them, but Raya, and if you want to drop in the chat box the names so that I could get all the names, and I definitely want to follow all of them. So thank you for this amazing fireside chat. And here, so you might be wondering, so what exactly can we do? Well, what can we do to enact change? And there are things, let me remove spotlight real quick. Give me 1 second. Okay, there we go. So with that being said, we haven't been able to visit the state capitol. So typically before the pandemic, here at Ignite, we would bring our young women across the country to different state capitals and also to Washington, D.C. to meet with legislators to push for legislations. And in fact, Lauren had the privilege to visit the state capitol last year when we did our Ignite the Capitol trip. But we usually push for legislations that are related to voting rights and women's rights. And in fact, one of the bills that Lauren is pushing for this year in Georgia is to lower the voting age. And so, and I do want to mention this, is that every state, well, actually states for the most part have very similar voting laws, but every city, they have slightly different voting laws, and especially school districts. For example, here in California, the voting age is 18, but you could pre-register at the age of 16. But some cities, actually here in San Francisco, for example, they try to lower the voting age just this past election cycle. They try to lower the voting age to, I believe, 17 or 16 and a half. And then also, in certain school districts, you could actually vote starting at the age of 16. So with that being said, one of the things that I hope everyone could spend a little bit of time to do is to actually research what are your local voting laws, especially when it comes to the age. And let me share a screen real quick if I could. Oops, give me 1 second. I have way too many tabs open, y'all. I should have closed all my tabs before I did this. Let me do this again, share screen. Okay. So one of the things that I urge everyone to do is to identify, I'll go through this quickly because I know, Raya, you have been through this. But one of the things that I encourage everyone to do is to identify who are the key people to get in touch with that could align with your mission. Talking about relational organizing, right? Like it could be your friends, your family, your roommates, your classmates, or your on-campus organizations that you're also part of. Reach out to them and tell them why, like share with them why it's important for you to lower the voting age. Why is it important that we make sure that youth voices are being included, are being uplifted, are being amplified? You know, why is it important that and especially for school board, I cannot emphasize enough how important it is that we make sure that our high school students are actually able to vote and elect their own school board members. It's beyond, it's mind-blowing how oftentimes we see like all these people in their 50s or 60s and who have graduated from K through 12 like decades ago, making decisions about school boards, and those decisions, guess what, they affect our high school students directly. And so, it's so mind-blowing. How is it that they are the ones being affected by those decisions, yet they are unable to vote for their own elected officials? So if there's anywhere that we could start, I personally would highly recommend that we start with lowering the voting age at school board, at your local school board. So definitely reach out. And I gave this example earlier. In California, the voting age is 18, but in the city of Oakland, 16 years old can vote in Oakland Unified School District. So how can you help enact change at local level? And then going back to relational organizing, adding that personal touch is so important. When you reach out to your family members, reach out to your friends and tell them why it's important that we lower the voting age. And also, I do want to share this one tool that we have on our website. So if you go to, and I'll drop this link in the chat box, if you go to advocate here, and then if you look up directory, you could look up your state elected officials. And this is my address. And my state elected officials, for example, it's Senator Richard Robb, and I click on it, it gives me his phone number. And if you want to take it a step further, I would also encourage everyone to call your state legislators and urge them to lower the voting age. And that's something that you could do as well. And you could also send them an email. There's their Twitter handle if they have one, and also their Facebook handle if they have one. So this is something that's available, and I'm going to share this in the chat box. Oops, let me do that real quick. Everyone in the meeting. So, with that, it's at the tail end of our workshop, but I do want to leave this one call to action with everyone. One call to action. Reach out to at least 5 people in your life. Reach out to at least 5 people in your life. It could be family, it could be friends, it could be your roommates, classmates, and share that, share with them why it's so important to lower the voting age. And also the second thing is to call your state legislators and your school board members and have them lower the voting age. With that, Lauren, Alicia, do you all have any call to action that you all want to leave people with?
Sorry. Go ahead, Alicia.
Okay. I don't know, like, this has been really amazing. I just want, everyone to leave understanding that you have the right to vote, engage in society, and just have your voice heard in like any process that'll affect you, your family, and your community. Like, your age is not a deterrent. Like, nothing is ever going to be a deterrent. So just feel free to get involved now. And now you have a lot of people here supporting you.
Love all those gems. That was perfect. I think also it's really important to start with yourself and really make the effort to know like the political landscape you live in, knowing who's representing you, as Jocelyn said, and then also knowing like when your elections are and when you have to vote in those elections, if you have to request an absentee ballot, how to go about that, making sure that you know all the information, because there's so much. And I think something that is important to know is that and that we all know is that civic engagement and voting just doesn't happen, once every 4 years, but it happens continuously. And I think it's really important that we make the effort to do it every day in any way that we can in these conversations. And I just want to say thank you everyone for coming and participating, because I learned from each and every one of you. So I appreciate it.
Thank you all. Thank you. And I believe there's a survey link for after each breakout sessions. If you could just take a minute to fill that out, that would be super helpful. With that, thank you all again for joining us, and I hope y'all will spread the word about lowering voting age across the country. So thank you.
Bye, everyone. It was great hearing from you all.
You too.
Bye.
Bye. This song always puts me in a good mood.
Exactly. Well, thank you all. I appreciate your help.
Of course, thank you for asking.
Yep.
I really enjoyed the conversation that you all had. And it's recorded, so I wonder if there's a way that maybe we could clip that part out and share that part. But I thought that was phenomenal, that conversation. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And y'all, yeah, it's so important that we do that. And also I was, as y'all were talking to each other or having the discussion, I sent Sarah a message. I was like, Sarah, Lauren and Alicia have grown so much since the beginning of the fellowship. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna cry. My heart is so full. You all have grown so much. I don't know if y'all noticed that, but like, y'all have grown a lot. Like, just watching y'all, like, with the whole conversation, I was like, wow, like it just made my heart so full and so happy. But yeah.
Thank you, Jocelyn.
It's because of you, people like you helping us and reaching out and really mentoring us, and really just grateful
Oh, thank you.
And for all of the other fellows and staff. Yeah.
Thank you. But yeah, no, this is great. Thank you all again, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you. You as
Yes.
well. Bye, y'all.
Great job. Bye. See you all later.
Bye.